I got called out on Substack yesterday for being promotional in other people's feeds. I thought about how to respond, and I did, and I came up with the approach to respond that I liked and feel good about it, and can think about what's going on Substack and LinkedIn right now, and how do not I explain myself because I don't feel the need to, but what happens when you do something that's different? When people talk about being different, they're saying the same thing that people are saying who aren't being different. They're doing the same thing as everybody else. And we're seeing this on Substack already. Not everywhere, but the LinkedIn mentality from 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, when it started, and then it started to die, moved on to Substack in a different form. The words are different, but that's still the same thing. And the thinking is don't disrupt the thought process, is the thinking. Support each other, agree, be supportive, follow these protocols to do it, and you're in the group. That's the mentality. And now it's on Substack. And to me, that's not what's coming next into the world at all. What's coming next into the world is telling the truth about how you feel, who you are, and what you're doing. That's disruptive on social media, because social media is like-minded echo chambers forming around a vision that others are expected to share. That is not the same thing as what's happening right now in the creative world. It's the opposite. If you look at original people doing original things, what is called creative originals versus original creators, they're not doing that. All the original musicians, they're coming together. They're collaborating, but everybody's doing their own thing. That's not happening on social media right now, but it will. I know it will, because that's where the creative energy is going. You can't stop this wave. You can surf it though. What I'm seeing is the language changing, and there's a beginning of an understanding of I can drop my persona and I can talk about what's actually happening. For people like me, I've been doing it for so long, for so long, that I'm used to saying things that are disruptive, not to be disruptive. So I am not, my intent is not to be disruptive. My intent is to talk about what I see, notice, and am, always, without a filter, with discernment and the ability to connect, yes, but not to reach a particular business goal. That's the difference. And it's interesting watching the responses on Substack now, to me, which is your advertising that looked like an ad. And I'm like, it did. I know, but it wasn't. But it looked like an ad. Why did it look like an ad? Because nobody is emotionally connecting into this content. They have an agenda: get seen, make money on Substack, get the popular creator to like them so they rise up in the hierarchy of popular creatordom, whatever it is. This isn't good or bad. It's just what's happening. I see three groups of entrepreneurs emerging right now: group one, group two, group three. I'm in group three, and I'm focusing on group three. I'm not focusing on group one and group two. I'm ignoring it, although I'm highly aware of it because I was in it. I'll tell you a quick story to explain this. I was branded a spammer a few years ago by GoDaddy, and they took down my company. They took down the website, and I had people on retainer, 5, 6, even one was 14 grand a month. And all of a sudden, I can't service them. I can't do what I was hired to do, which was get them leads and help them close those leads, build a pipeline, manage the pipeline, and for some closing assist, for others just build the pipeline and they'll handle it. Now, all of a sudden, my outbound emails are calling, and our strategy approaches, which made this what was called a high highly targeted. So this would have been back in 2014. Well, wait a minute, 2014, 2015. I can't remember when it happened. I was at a More Mining. I could look it up because I was at a My Morning Jacket concert in Chicago at the Chicago Theater, and my website went down. And there's something called the CAN-SPAM Act, and then there's a culture at ICANN, which is the domain registrar, and they publish an abuse hotline for every domain. Now, somebody looked me up because they didn't like the email. It was high quality, outbound, highly targeted, strategically thought out. I get balloons. And he didn't like it. I know who it was too, because they tell you. I just didn't know this was going on. I got really good at email marketing, really good. It cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get really good at it. And at least 4 or 5, at some kind of times 10 grand a month to get emails delivered into the inboxes without getting spam flagged after I got the site back up. And the minute this all happened, I thought, I need a different kind of business. Well, you know what? That business still exists, and it's still in the 7 figures, still exists. And I thought, this business is going to be gone in like a year or two. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I felt branded as a, not an outlaw, as a scarlet letter traitor to the marketing industry, which had become an inbound marketing industry with the top people being content marketers. And I remember thinking, I'm already doing that stuff, but I got to call people because we did what's called database marketing. So it's about account-based selling, account-based marketing, which means you got to go get the people because they're busy and they don't screw around online. They work in corporations. So you got to go get them. This is still true today. Now there's lots of ways to do it. I had a successful way to do it. And then all of a sudden I'm a traitor. It's happening again for anybody who stands out and does something different. I'm making them look like ads, but they're not. It's my heart, my mind, and my vision being communicated online in a way that will trigger people who aren't paying attention to what I'm actually saying because they're stuck in a mentality of it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be supportive. It's supposed to be in agreement with, and it is about this group coming together around what? That's the secret to it. Now we're going to get into the 3 types of entrepreneurs and then the map of 5-stage pathway to design a real business around lived experience to get out of this system if you want to. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm doing it. I'm saying there's a different way to think about it and to do it that's actually effective and will make you money long term. What are we being asked to do I'm going to go to the 3 classes of entrepreneurs first. And I'm going to talk about this when I get to the second one because it's number 2. So there's 3. There's corporate security seekers. So think about this. Think about who you know who's a corporate security seeker who's self-employed. It's a mindset. Corporate security seeker. We've all been that. I've been it too. It's not who I am, but I have been there. Why can't I just get a damn paycheck? This is too hard. Corporate security seeker. Second, social media performers. That's what I'm talking about. Social media performers. It's not bad or good. What are you doing? Who do you know is a social media performer? How do you know? You're chasing visibility. Chasing visibility as opposed to sharing experience to be visible. It's the opposite. Chasing visibility is going out of the market. Sharing experience, leading towards being visible, is coming into the market quick. It is the opposite. And I see people in transition on Substack, but they're still doing social media performance. How? What does that mean? They built personas, but behind the scenes, there's burnout, disconnect, and confusion about what's actually working. So if you go into some of these private groups, the Todd Brown level, the Russell Brunson level, I'm talking about the top people in the world, They're having active conversations around how do we do this now? Because it's not working anymore. What do they define as working? KPIs and metrics. So they're trying to figure out what does work. And then they're finding the answers and saying, oh, it's working now, but it's not. Unless you're in that category of social media performer. And then it's working fine for you. Nobody else. But for you, it's great. And the people in your inner circle are willing to pay to be in your mastermind group, to be at the top of the mountain with you if they climb up, or you get lifted up by the, like a cat, by the moms. Yeah, social media performer ecosystem. This is what we've been in for so long. The thinking about it is automatic. The mind is just thinking. Something disruptive comes in, like me, not just me, others. And they like, well, that's an ad. You're not supposed to do that on Substack. Substack's like this. It's not like LinkedIn. I'm saying, I know, that's what I said. Who's doing that, me or you? And the answer is you, because I'm not doing that. My intent is not that, and my impact is not that. It's disruptive. What I'm doing is disruptive. Is that bad? Or is it just what's next? And then it'll become obvious. We've seen this with everything. The internet, when it started, mobile, when it started, Zoom, everything works like this. What's the third category? Experience sharers. This is where we're focused, where I'm focused, and have been since 2023, early 2023, when I started to realize I'm not a corporate security seeker anymore, and I wasn't, but I wanted stable income, but I wasn't seeking security. I was designing a life supported by stable income. That was my intent. And that's what happened. 2, social media performer. I did that from probably 2016 when I first learned about it. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to all that stuff because I had a business already that was working. And then when it stopped working, meaning I'm being branded a scarlet letter from Google and GoDaddy and Microsoft in the market of you don't do it like this anymore. I'm like, yeah, there are better ways. I'm watching them and I'm studying them. And I have been for years. When HubSpot started and Content Inc. started, I was playing around with that stuff from the very beginning, and the way of thinking about it, and the highly targeted, not spam, which is now spam. Oh, I got more balloons. Getting out of that was the goal, and stability was the goal, but that's not how I got there. I got there through experience sharing, speaking from lived transformation, and only speaking of what I know, not what I think will work in the market. It's not relevant because it automatically works if you're on the right trajectory. You don't have to make it work because you're in the wave of what's next. You're swimming in the ocean. The waves start building. You look underneath the ocean. That's looking inside yourself. And you say, this is right. I know it's right. It feels connected. I can think clearly now. And my body, which is the gauge of yes or no, is telling me yes or telling me no. If I'm on that, even if no one can see me in the middle of the ocean, I keep sharing my experience and keep going. The wave is crested. The wave is crested. We're there now. I didn't create this. I rode the wave. People who are doing this, and I see them all over the world, and they're joining my group. Now we have more paying members now, as well as our core founding team. We're not trying to impress. We're telling the truth, and people trust us because of it. However, it's disruptive. So it also triggers people. So the idea is, what is next? No hierarchy. What has existed is people looking for security and a structure. In other words, I create a company. This was me years ago, service business. Now I have stable income. I have stable clients. I'm servicing those clients, and I want it to stay the same. And I want what I'm doing to continue to work. And when it doesn't, I'll pivot. That thinking comes from a deep insecurity and a desire for stability And the feeling is, please stop change. Please stop the change. That's the mentality. You can't do that anymore because the change is not going to stop. It's going to come faster. We already know this. The social media performer mentality is, if I can just get them to like me enough, if I could just get popular and I'll build an audience, then they'll pay me for my products. Look at the pricing of courses. Look at the exhaustion in the market of people who just don't want to learn anymore. I don't want to learn. I don't want your direction. I don't need it. I already know. And every time I see somebody doing that, I'm clicking in my mind, how much are you going to waste? My number was 150 grand. And I asked people, and they're like, oh my God, I took that course and it was great. And I'm like, so what happened? Well, nothing. But it was great, right? Well, yeah, it was great because that's what everybody's doing. Exactly. But now I know my elevator message and I have my signature method and I have my product line. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. How's it going? Well, I'm exhausted. I made 100 grand last month though. Well, how's it going though? I get it. I've made that kind of money. It's not going well. Why? Because my family life it's just exhausting. So it didn't work. Well, no, it worked. You know the conversation. You're speaking different language. Corporate securities seekers, social media performers are speaking a different language than me. So when I say things, it confuses them. It confuses them. What does it do for people who are out of that thinking? It attracts them. They're interested. I don't have to sell or convert them at all. Ever. And I don't have a sales method or a marketing method. I have a new approach that I'm creating on the fly, building it in public that works for me. Other people in our group are not using it. They have their own approaches. They can use it, but not the way I do. And that's the point. Now it's going to be, and already is to some degree, as the pilots are finishing in millions of different areas. We run, our approach is beta, pilot, market, and then scale. That comes later. You don't focus on scale. You don't focus on outcomes in experience sharing, in the experience sharing economy. It's not how it works. And there's anchoring principles in spiritual traditions across the world that prove that. And I know it from my own experience and our experience of the people in the group as well. What's necessary today are maps, not hierarchies and not more stuff to learn. It doesn't work. What people want is a map, a pathway to success. And the pathway to success is knowing who you are, what your purpose is, how. Not a quote that's important. I don't need a quote. That's important. So I feel a little better. Oh, you inspired me today. What did I do? Nothing. The same thing I always do. So thanks for your quote on social media, influencer. I already know that. I'm seeing through it quick. Other people feel better and nothing changes. Something has to change. Either my business traction has to change or my personal acceleration. If you want your business traction to really take off, you have to change personally inside. Is that just a quote? If it is, it's not useful. So what? Now you know. We already know. I've been listening to this for years on social media. How you do it? We'll do it like me. The answer is it's not how it works. It's not confusing when you get free of the thinking. The thinking's got to get free first. And then the emotional connection's got to be there with it because that's what it is. And then the body's got to tell you the answer because that's where the answers are, inside. What is a map? It's just a suggestion. It's an outline. It's an organizational structure to put structure to what can't be structured. What can't be structured? Life. Life is change. It's not that things will stop changing. It's that things will change more, and people who resist change will collapse. I don't think you'll be able to make a living if you resist change today. and you want to keep the certainty feeling corporate security seekers in self-employment, I don't think you're going to make it. Social media performers, same thing, because people are exhausted by it. And those courses and programs and thinking doesn't work. You think it'll work because it sounds great. And we want an answer, but there isn't one. Where is the answer? All human beings come with an instruction manual. Where is it? It's inside you, not out in the marketplace. That's why this stuff isn't going to work. So I'm going to lay out this 5-stage pathway, and I can do it in 10 minutes, but not at a level of detail that we have. This is my approach. We've got 12 people in total that have their own approaches, but we're connected together. That's hard for people to understand. That is something Napoleon Hill teaches that people talk about, but they're not doing it. We're doing it, which is not the same as explaining it or talking about it. Doing is not the same. When you do, you can bring other people into the doing of it. So people are talking about selling communities now. I'm like, no, don't sell a community. You won't make any money. I know. I started doing that back in 2019. I must have spun up 10 communities and people signed up. It's not a good business model, but they're talking about it. Doing is not the same thing as talking about what will work. Because when you do it, you'll realize that 49 bucks a month in the churn is not getting me anywhere because people aren't getting anywhere in these communities. So they won't pay unless you're famous, and then you can churn them in and out of your high ticket groups. When will that end? I think it's already starting to fall apart unless you're doing the thing. If you're doing the thing together as a group around what we call shared desire, or that's my words, everyone in our group talks about it differently, but we're saying the same thing with different language because our experiences are different. So here's the 5 areas. Liberation mechanics. These are mine. Flexible founder mode. 3 is the experience sharing economy. 4 is building for resonance. And 5 is connecting purpose to business. So this is the shift. We're already in this, in the economy. Liberation mechanics is exiting belief systems that don't serve you. Not believing in I have to get popular on social media, and not believing I have to have consistent income and my business has to finish. Liberation mechanics is knowing you're going to succeed and your success is inevitable. The execution of that requires using something I call flexible founder mode, which is a structure that moves with you, not against you. Flexible founder mode means nothing should feel hard ever. If there's resistance feeling, I'm doing it wrong. Flexible founder mode is when I have resistance feeling, how do I release myself from resistance feeling and get back into connected action? Third, the experience sharing economy. Trust is built through truth. When you know who you are and you know what's true for you and you communicate that, you will build a business that succeeds because this is where the economy is. People want real answers, but not to learn anything more. They want results, and they want to be around people who are supporting that and understand what they're going through and are not selling something to them. Blue pills. People want the red pill. And I don't mean the goofy, painful men's movement dating site stuff. No, I'm talking about knowing who you are. Building for resonance. Instead of an offer too great to ignore, which everyone is ignoring because they're bullshit, so they're not too great. Offers that feel like recognition, not persuasion. So when I recognize myself and the other person's creation that they're sharing from experience, I want in. But I want to know it's right And I need them to give me a way to identify if it's right for me or not have to decide because they're overcoming my objections. Old thinking from what? The craving for stability and security. They want their KPIs to be consistent and growing. That's a corporate model because you have to, because you have investors in the business. You don't have to do that if you're self-employed, but it feels easier because you feel a sense of insecurity if your numbers are collapsing. Instead of letting it collapse and building for resonance, in other words, offers that feel like recognition, not persuasion, people are changing the language. So I'm noticing exactly the same thing being said in different words because what they're doing is they're looking at ChatGPT or they're analyzing the market and they're saying, what do people want now? That's not the same thing as being that and doing that and saying you can come in as an equal member. That is not the same thing. It's the opposite. 5, connecting purpose to business. I was talking to somebody a couple days ago. He's got one of the largest B2B marketer. He calls it's revenue generation, which I was playing around with the concepts when I wrote a book about it in 2019 about revenue generation versus sales, marketing, lead gen being separate things. And we were both building some community stuff back in 2019 and we connected and he succeeded huge. And for me, it was an experiment that led to this. But for him, he built the world's largest revenue generation community and it's very, very successful. And we really aligned around this idea of connecting purpose to business. So at first when we were talking, he's like, I don't see the resonance with what you're doing. Well, my offer feels like resonance, not persuasion, because I'm not trying to persuade him. So I said, well, tell me, what do you mean? And he said, well, to me, it's like business from Dharma. I'm like, I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. And then he clicked for him. And then we had a good conversation and we'll talk again. Connecting purpose to business. Where's the purpose? It's your Dharma. Now, you don't have to be a Buddhist. That's just a roadmap. Dharma is a great word. I talked about this yesterday because it explains it in a way we can't in English, but I'll use English instead because it's not our culture. So it's confusing to people. They're learning about it in some course on Dharma, and then they get all the information and nothing changes. Dharma is going into the inner pain, the inner feeling of why do I exist? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to learn? My Dharma is learning that I can handle anything and that I have resourcefulness inside me that will allow me to weather any challenge. That's inside me. That is my purpose. Now, the vision that comes from purpose, the work that comes from purpose, the business resonance device, I'll call it. I don't know how to describe this that well yet, but the attraction system, the synchronicity system that comes from purpose, the life experience I get that comes from purpose, and the brand in the market that comes from purpose is a 5-stage individuation process. I call it More Money Now. And it can be done at any layer of complexity depending on where somebody is and what they want. And the point is alignment outperforms attention. This is a better business model to make more money with less effort. If anybody's talking in the market right now about making effort and working really hard, they're doing it wrong because they're in an old model based on fear of insecurity. It's based on fear. That's what's going on. Social media persuasion to be popular is based on fear of not being liked and needing security and stability from having predictability around oversubscribing programs. Those people are starting to get a hit, taking a hit on this right now. There's a couple who aren't, but not yet, but they will because it's an old way of thinking. So the idea for you and for me coming together around no pitch, no performance, just a clear look at what's happening out there for you and me together. That's what's next. And I'm saying this looking for language to help people understand what they're already feeling and naming that in the conversation as opposed to explaining what it is, what I spent a couple years doing. And the reason I was speaking the way I was, because I was trying to figure it out myself. And I saw a model called Build It in Public back in probably 2015 and 2016. And then on LinkedIn, I saw people, they weren't telling me about it. They were doing it successfully. And I thought, I want to do it successfully too. So I worked on that, and now I am. And look how many years it took to get there. It wasn't that many. That's the point. So if you want to cut overnight success from 20, 30 years down to a year, it's possible.